And then,
is anyone else able to hop on, or are they all in meetings too?
Yeah. Well, it's our last band call, guys. We made it. Welcome. I'm excited about talking about the current times, and I don't think any of us, when we started the band call, thought that this would be the circumstances for the last call, but it is what it is. Jaymison, you just said we're on official, what's the order? Stay in place, stay at home. So because of the coronavirus, so it's interesting times for sure. I've got some definite ideas, guys, that I could share. There's a lot of really excellent hard work that's been happening, I think, by all of our DVMs nationwide. I know in the Southwest, that's who I'm most exposed to, and you guys respectively in your own areas. And I think we're all, moving one day at a time. I heard a really cool quote on one of my CSP calls, and a lot of the CSPs right now, their worlds have been shook just because of all the events and being canceled. And, I think it's really important we show up for them. But Carlton Thompson, who did like 300K last year, one of my number one reps, just mentioned that he's just doing something every day. And I thought that was a cool way to go about it. Like, just do something, do what you can. And it was kind of inspiring for sure for me. So I've got some ideas. I'd love to hear what you guys are doing too. So we can take it at whatever rate we want, but I'd love to hear maybe, I know it's our normal theme, but what's going well in your business? I know there might be some challenges we're all focused on, but I think that if we follow that path and theme to begin, that'll be cool. And then we can dive into some of the content. So anything going well right now that we want to share or celebrate?
Yeah, I mean, I'll definitely go. There's a lot of positive stuff happening. I think despite like all the challenges that we're experiencing. So a big positive is today we're probably as a division going to launch more people this week than the entire month of April last year. So, I mean, recruiting it's explosive. I think we're going to launch 30 plus today. So it's an average of about 7 per office, and I think that's great. The set for training is already looking really great for next week. And then probably the biggest win is I had a handful of district managers that closed down at the end of last summer, and we're reopening a lot of offices. So we're now deploying 4, if not 5 more people than we weren't planning on deploying 3 weeks ago. And they're essentially running, remote locations, and they're handling the zip codes that we weren't going to touch anyways, right? They were like in between territories. So the division went from 8 to 12, maybe 13 offices just in the course of the last 3 weeks. So that's been a huge win. And these are all guys that they're well experienced, and their roles have been essentially, they're either laid off or let go, or, they're on pause, or however you want to refer to it, but they need something to do to make money for a couple of months. And I'm like, let's put you out as a branch. Like, let's make this a win-win. So I think that's probably been one of the biggest wins that we've experienced, for sure.
Love it. It's so exciting. I've had multiple different AMs call me and reach back out, and I know that there's not a lot of other game in town, right? So I know there's been massive recruiting gains, on all fronts nationwide. And I think that, our division might be a little bit behind the curve when it comes to that, but we're already ramping up too, and I'm feeling good about that. So that's awesome, man. That's it's like 60, 40, 50% growth in your office count, just like that, right? So it's pretty cool. What about for you, Shayla?
I'm kind of along the same lines of you guys, is just do something every day. I mean, what else are we going to do at this time, right? Like, it's kind of nice to be in our vector bubble, I call it, where we have the ability to be consumed with that, just moving forward. I've really enjoyed, just how everyone's really stepped up and been able to adapt their business in such a short period of time. We ran our second virtual training yesterday. We had, actually last weekend, we had NSKO, which is our national summer kickoff. And we had over 55 people on Zoom, and it was epic. If you guys have a chance to Google Unstoppable Tracy, that was our guest speaker that we had. And she just was inducted into the Hall of Fame here in Canada. And she's right beside Wayne Gretzky. So she is a quadriplegic born with no limbs. And this girl has won like a medal at the Olympics. Like, Yeah, so it's Unstoppable Tracy Schmidt, and I can send you guys the YouTube of her, or the link of how she gave her message, and I would even think about him playing it at, you know, some event in the next couple of weeks, because it is super inspiring and just a different kind of message. But we were able to do it all virtual, and it was super engaging. We did circuits, we did breakouts, and the feedback was amazing. So we weren't really sure how we were going to pull off our kickoff, but it was probably one of the best events we've done. So that was solid. We had about 57 people in training for the division yesterday, and I ran that yesterday. And so that was good. We're seeing much higher quality recruits, kids that we would not have access to, obviously, if things were still in place. So like, I'm talking this guy on that is a PR, that's a full ride hockey scholarship that obviously isn't doing anything, and just someone we wanted to get in for a while, and just sharp kid. And just, yeah, like the quality of recruits, I feel like with the remote interviews, you're not really getting a lot of 1-stars, because if they don't really communicate well, you don't really, where in person, I feel like we do that a little bit more. So the quality of recruits has gone up. And then I was able to open up all of my branches this week. So they're all up and running. So we have 11 offices in our division right now, from 5 last year. So growth of 5 to 11. And then we've sent a letter back to everybody that worked with us in the past couple of years, inviting them back. So if you guys want a copy of that letter, I can send that to you. But I just got all the emails and did that, and already got some great responses. And we'll see how this weekend goes. This weekend we didn't run training. Our sales have been been the same the last 3 weeks. Haven't gone up, haven't got down. So that's, I guess, a positive. We didn't run training last week, so this week will be a testament to see how we do on the productivity front. Yeah, team meeting last night was good. We had it on Zoom, and we had just shy of 50 people on team meeting too. So learning how to use the breakout rooms, got everyone on queue now. So that was a move we made this week. And I think that's really going to help with the leaderboards. And then just with our team meetings, we're doing them divisionally, but we're doing breakouts by level of sales and having different districts run those. So that's gone well. And yeah, that's my update. I don't have a lot of CSPs. So I guide when we open up in Canada, we don't get CSPs. You have to develop them. And I'm only two and a bit years in. So I'm not really affected by that, because I didn't really have them part of my office. I know that, yeah, they're definitely been hit, the ones that we have in Canada, but they're doing what they can and going after being April, being Appreciation Month, and just loving on their people. I know Vonnie's done some really great stuff where she's gotten realtors together and done like Q&A and done some video breakouts and stuff. And those have gone kind of viral in some places in Canada, but that's pretty much it for me.
Love it. Very cool. Well, I'd love for you in the chat box with the recording, if you want to post that link that you talked about for the Unstoppable Tracy, that would be great. And then, any of the content or communication emails that you're sending to past reps or, whoever, that's pretty phenomenal too. Congrats on being up and running. I know I've really thought about how this is forced the summer to start now. I think we all have that quote where it's like, summer starts now, right? And we say it for 3 or 4 months straight, but like legitimate, right? Like this is, we're not waiting until the official day 1 of campaign 2 here. We never have, but I've always tried to promote, I've learned from Drew that we want April to try to feel like May and May to feel like June. And I think this is the first time legitimately that we could have what I'm calling a 5-month summer, and what that can feel like, what that can look like with the bonuses. So yeah, with the recording, I'd love to see the link be posted there. And then I'm sure on an email, you can send out some of the other content. So it's great. I'm going to change gears. I'm going to say one of my positives. I'm going to start with personal. I really love that I'm being able to be at home more. It's been really fun to observe the kids. It's been fun to be able to see them, interact and do some of the education from home. I've got a 7-year-old daughter and 11-year-old son, and both of them had Zoom meetings with their teachers, and it's been really fun to watch the teachers never knowing Zoom before jump on for the first time and watch a bunch of first graders try to interact and all talk at the same time. She has to force mute everybody. So it's been really fun to see that. And they're all walking cats across the screen, and dogs are knocking laptops or tablets off the table. So there's been a lot of fun humor, seeing a bunch of, 5th graders hang out. My son's got a slide today, and they're all creating a PowerPoint. They're going to share it on Zoom, and they're going to go through some of their ideas and things they're learning. So that's just been fun. Being able to also see, college change, right? Everybody living in the world of Zoom. My wife's going to her master's, and she just did a quick post yesterday about what's happening with Zoom right now and how they're blowing up and how the user interface wasn't developed or built for a social media type of instant networking, but that's what they're having to transfer to. It's like worth 27 billion or something starting in 2011. So pretty ridiculous, right? I don't know if you've seen the stock go up with it, but everybody's living on Zoom. So seeing how colleges and things like that are interacting. What's also been interesting for me is seeing how people interact on Zoom. I've seen a lot of college classes where the teachers don't know the program, so they're okay with their students just not having a camera on, or having a camera on but being in their bed in their PJs, and just the level of, I guess, standards, right, the different places hold versus what we're doing, which is a whole new confirmation call where we're talking about the importance of showing up the right way to Zoom, right? And acting as if you were just in an actual meeting, like, hey, we want you to, we're a $250 million marketing firm, so we expect you to show up as such, So our people are showing up a lot more professional to the camera and to the meetings, being engaged and ready. Some other wins is I think that it's really forced us to level up our virtual game. It's been really interesting to see how some of the CSPs respond. I've got a link I'll share after I'm done talking, but Josh Mueller just showing up in such a huge way. I don't know if you've seen, but he's put together a Google form with a bunch of videos and recordings from CSPs, and Curtis JQ's like innovating, the virtual service call program now. I think that's been really neat. So that's been a big win. And then the last thing is just seeing how the company shows up. I think there's been a lot of just realization from a lot of people in our division, in our region, about how amazing of a company we work for. The fact that the first way that Jim Stitt responded when things were going to get tough is, hey, we're going to pay out commissions. We're not going to charge clients, right? We all know all that stuff. And, even with shipping department being shut down, basically saying, hey, I'm going to float the bill for a $250 million marketing firm for up to 48 weeks, right? Like, I'm okay with that, I thought that was impressive. And then removing quotas, right, for both managers and reps. And then, also doing the 5X contest for the month of April. And I know that Lloyd's just been having DVM meeting everywhere. I'm sure we all have been, and spending more time on Zoom than, in 1 week than we probably have in the last year. It's been pretty interesting too. But I love that we're seeing the recruiting gains coming. I love that we're seeing the quality of recruit go up. I love that we are responding with really good innovations, taking advantage of technology. And I love that we're strong, and I talked about how our company is so strong right now. John Kane jumped on a region CSP call. That's the other thing I'd love, is just getting more time with people. Like I jumped on, we called it, I don't know if you guys do this in your region, but Lloyd called a CSP happy hour. And basically yesterday he hosted it at 4:45 on Zoom. Him and his wife were there. Everybody had a drink, and we had Curtis share a couple of tips. We also had John Kane share a couple of tips, and then we just hung out for an hour and toasted. And I've never had that experience where I could see so many incredible top-level leaders all at the same time on my screen, and everyone's joking, and some people were sharing videos, and we were telling stories, and that cost us nothing. Think about how much money we pour into some of these extravagant experiences and trips. And you don't even get that much quality time with everybody there, but we were all on one hangout. And I thought that was really neat too. So it's really like brought people together. And for me, it's just increased my level of conviction and commitment to our brand. One of the things that John Kane said yesterday was that he has a friend who's worked for a company for like 20 years. And this guy got a text message 2 days afterwards, not just that he was laid off, but that the company was disbanding, and they were no longer a company, and they were just done, right? They're like, we're not going to even face the challenge. We're out, and I can't imagine what that would look like. And for us, I think that, as leaders, this is really a call to action for us to level up our game and grow and get better and embrace and lean into the adversity. So I'm so glad that we did that little exercise. I know that took 10 to 15, but gosh, like, I love the way you responded, Jaymison. Like, yeah, I'll go. Things are going great, right? And it's like, that's awesome, man. And like, Shayla, you just huge smile on your face right now about, just everything completely open, all your offices, more than doubling your count this year. It's impressive. And that's what makes me so inspired and so happy to be a part of, our organization is people like you. So thanks for being on today. I really appreciate it. It's awesome.
I think that people thrive in challenging times. Like, they're like, oh, a challenge? Yes, give it to me. Not that that's something we would ever want to have happen, but it is funny how we thrive a little bit when things are a little wild.
Yeah. We haven't seen the full recruiting games, but in the pilot, we have 21 set for training this week, and over 7 of them are 3 stars. And I confirmed 6 of the 7 3 stars for training today. So this will be my first time running the remote training. I did like opening comments, but I haven't run a full one. So I'm really excited about that. And
can I give you one tip for the training? Are you doing it just for your pilot, or are you doing it for the division?
Just for the pilot.
Okay, so if you could do it for the division ever, or if you ever want to with the names, see how our names are in the bottom left corner?
Yep.
Is if on the dots, if you get them to rename, what I did here yesterday, like team meetings and stuff, is I just had them go Shayla Way and then their office. So you rename it, then you can go, and it's a super little tip, but I was like, how do I track all these people? So when I got them on, because we had 75 set for training just in my office, so I was like, OMG, what's going to happen here? And so when you have all Vancouver and all these different cities, and then same for the team nights, you could even put like their career sales, right? You know, you could have them go like that and rename it. And then when you're doing breakouts, you can quickly see where they go.
Yeah.
That was a little tip that I did yesterday, and it was a game changer, because then I'm like, oh yeah, Nick from Vancouver, hey Jaymison from Lethbridge, you know, and you could call on them. Yeah. So that helped.
That's
helpful.
helpful.
I live in Vancouver, and I'm glad that you live in Lethbridge, Jaymison. So
yeah.
Sure, I know all about that.
So we did great. I'm running training for the whole division, and then like just getting people to tell me what office they were a part of was so challenging, because they like some of them didn't even know. They're like, oh, well, I don't live in any of those cities that you just named off, and I'm like, oh my god.
I know, it was funny. Some people would put like their small town. I'm like, that's not an office. I'm like, hey, where you're from? They're like, Cold Lake. I'm like, nope, that's not an office.
That's funny. So where do I go to change the name?
So on the top right-hand corner, there's 3 little dots, like of your square, right beside where it says mute. Click on that, and then there's a drop down, and then it says rename, and then click that.
Cool. Good deal. That's awesome. Well, it's funny. It seems like Zoom is updating every few days now with all kinds of enhancements and updates, and they're trying to.
Which package do you guys have? Did you just have the 100 participant one?
Yeah, I think that's what I have as well. But I know that, I don't know if you guys got the email, Southwest did, but corporate's buying like a corporate account and then charging it back or something.
Yeah, I did see that, which I think allows up to 300. I think you want to make sure too, when you have someone with your training today, if you can have someone be a co-host, like if you could delegate one of your AMs or a pilot to be a co-host, that also really helps, because when you're talking, it's just, you want to be prepared in case shit hits the fan, right? If something crashes, if your co-host is on, then the meeting still goes and they can just step in. And then the other thing is, if they're going to do the breakouts. So like for like the names list yesterday, we divided it up. So there was a team leader, and they were kind of in small groups, like in pods of like 6 for the names list. And then today when we do role playing, like we'll do like probably, I don't know, 30 breakout rooms with 2 people in each one, so they can just role play back and forth. Like you can do that. Do you know how to do the breakout rooms? Did that video help?
Yep.
Okay. Because that also is nice to do just one-on-one.
Yeah. That's huge. Well, I'm so glad you brought that up. The next thing I wanted to transition to here was a little bit more about just best practices for Zoom. As promised, by the way, I'm going to take that link for the Drive account that, let's see, I'm going to record it in the chat, but the Drive account that, and link for what Josh Mueller put together with the interview from Curtis and everything. I hope you guys have taken advantage of that, but all of my CSPs have watched like how to do a remote service call now. They're fired up about it, and it's going to be really good. And Shayla, if you could post that link as well for Unstoppable Tracy, that'd be really cool. Just so it's all recorded in here.
I just emailed it to you guys, and the other message that's on there that I just noticed, so Angie just put a Word doc together of all the messages, but there's another message too. We had Brian Hurlman pop in too, and in his message is like, it's not PG, like there's definitely some F-bombs in there, but it definitely brings the heat. Like Trent was like, that's probably one of the best messages that he's given. So I don't know where you guys are at with, his vibe and stuff, but some of my guys really took to his energy, and he did come in hot with just the recruiting front of like making things awesome, of making that happen. So they're in there too, but the Unstoppable Trace is just a different style of a message, which is kind of nice. Where's the one from Curtis and them? Where was that posted? Was it in the DM channel, or was it an email?
No, that was that just came through our DDM channel with Southwest region. So, but he made it, and he's been sharing it with all of the regions nationwide. So, but I posted it here in the chat. So if you want to click that, you'll have the access to the Google Drive. Yep. Cool. Well, I'd like to start with just a couple of best practices. We had a really good DDM call. Some of the things you guys are talking about are the things that came up, which I thought was really, really neat. But, Drew Frank came very similar to probably with Brian Hurlman's energy. And what he talked about, right now is that your passion, your enthusiasm, your energy makes the difference. That's what we're telling our guys. And just, really start doing things. And basically now more than ever before, communication, frequency of communication, I think is really key. We've been discussing a lot is what I'm doing right now, either talking to a rep or getting another recruit. And that never changes. So reaching out to past reps for staffing has been very successful. Who's reliable, who's working correctly. I know there are managers right now and they're reaching out to their dream team staff. Jaymison, you talked about that, like how many people are coming back. One of the things Drew mentioned is he's got only himself and a pilot right now and really no other staff. So he's reaching out to branches from 3-5 years ago. And these guys are fired up to come back because, as we all know, there's really no other game in town, right? And I really believe that our recruiting is going to be next level at a really, really high point. So I'm fired up about that. Some of the best practices for actually like running the training, 3 things that came up that I thought were really cool. Number one is all about connection. We talked about this starting in the interview, continuing with a strong confirmation call, being confident with opening comments, right, and really crushing expectations. Stacey Campbell jumped on and really had an excellent message just about how you got to set expectations in advance for how they show up, but also the fact that like training might get a little bit long on Zoom, but the good news is this is day one's the longest day you'll ever have. And then after that, everything's going to get better and you're going to get used to it, right? And very comfortable with it. And if you're uncomfortable with it, well, that's because it's the first time you're ever training for a job virtually, right? There's a lot of firsts we're all experiencing. So how can we embrace that and take advantage of that? So just having the strong opening comments, I think we all know that. Making sure you use people's names for making connections. So like you mentioned, I love the idea, Shayla, of not just their name, but also their location, right? So we kind of know where they're at. One of the cool things is no territories. Jaymison, I know you kind of alluded to that on our last call, but I think about like, I've got a girl right now that's working out of Tennessee selling for us. I love that. And then I've got one that's up in Washington State right now, and she's going to be selling for us as well, right? And these are all PRs of friends, and they're hearing about it that way. So I thought that was pretty neat, no doubt. Number 2, that's really big best practice is stop bys. So who do you want your group introduced to this week? Now there's no longer the time, right, or the fitting it into the schedule. You can just text your CSPs and say, yo, between blank and blank time while I'm running training, what's a good time for 5 minutes that I can use you? I need you for 5 minutes, right? Or like for the pilot in Edmond, we just had a 10K fast starter. So we've got a kid now that, made $2,000. So I'm talking to him, hey, on day 1, here's a perfect time when I need you to stop by. Here's a couple things I want you to cover as tips, right? And being able to pause and change up the monotony. I know for myself, I haven't run a full training yet on Zoom. Today is going to be that day. But I can imagine that I learned something really cool, and I'll share another link, but learning that the reason TED Talks are 15 to 18 minutes is because, science has shown that we can't really focus for more than that amount of time. So learning to use the screen as the way to shake things up, share screen, unshare screen, things like breakout room or things like pause for question, stand up, take a stretch break, right? I haven't done this stuff, but I've heard really good best practices from people who have, and it seems to really be working with people's engagement, really using the chat box to ask questions, right? Or I know you can even post like a poll and have people answer. So how can we use Zoom and all the different tools that it provides us for multimedia type of engagement? With the stop bys, also making sure that you invite alumni on, so not just CSPs, not just current reps, not just staff, but alumni. And one of the cool things about stop bys was what we're calling Zoom etiquette. We're putting together a document right now about things like how if training were being run in the summer with these big groups, we would want our staff and ourselves to be there, and prepared at least 30 minutes early. So having all your staff on hanging out like 30 minutes before training begins each day, and then as reps join 10 minutes before, asking good questions, using breakout rooms for some of the PCs. I thought that was pretty cool. And then one of the things they mentioned is just the importance of like having all your staff there to proctor. And I didn't know about the co-host thing, but now that you've mentioned that, that's brilliant, because if Wi-Fi dies or resets or something, you don't get thrown off your game, right? Maybe one person does, but the rest of it gets protected. So I love that. And then the third best practice was just driving activity. So things like changing up your mindset on contests or competition, things like being a tough coach and getting them to commit to activity, and just making sure that you show up in the right way as a trainer, setting expectations. Something that I've told my division for a long time is that I would say most of the problems that we encounter as managers, especially in Vector, are self-generated, right? Like we didn't cover expectations for base pay properly, so we had a base pay runner, right? Or we didn't talk about the importance of consistent phoning and demos ahead with enough, strength, right, to get that done. Or something like 5 before and 5 after. We're not making that, optional right now, right? Like this is the program. Before you begin, you make 5 calls, you check in with a manager, you do your appointment, right? And that's really made a difference too. So those 3 things were really, really valuable. Another way to look at them, and I did an opening comments for my team meeting last night, but I talked about how right now, and I really was convicted in this, is all about attitude and belief, right? The world is sales. So you're selling yourself a product, an idea, or a service at all times. But when it comes to sales, the media is trying to sell us on fear-based mentality, on the world is crashing, things like that. What do you choose to believe, right? So sell or be sold. And so I'm really talking to my people about what mindset they're bringing in. The second thing was expectations, right? What expectations do they have for themselves, for their appointments, for their customers, right? And what expectations are we setting as a management team? And the last thing was just all about effort and action and things like that. So some really good stuff came out of that. And I've got a document that I typed up from just individual items that Stacy's talked about, from like AM's helping Proctor, right? Or being able to have strong best 5 conversations. I thought that was pretty cool. Stacy mentioned that our old best 5 might not be our new best 5. You might know somebody that was like in the travel world and they had made all this money in the airline industry. But if you're in that industry right now, that's not a good place to be, right? Or man, this person was like, maybe Morgan Stanley, or worked for a financial agency. Well, that's not always the best 5 anymore, but who are the best 5? People keeping their jobs, right? So really having intense conversations about showing the right people, presenting to those people. We all know the national sales report. There's still lots of action getting done, lots of sales being made. So it's just that sales pitch for us. And then, really the last couple of things that he mentioned was making sure you're doing really quality day 1 PCs, really quality day 2 PCs, making sure you really engage with people and really set up the expectation. And I'll leave you with, for my part, and then I'd love to hear other best practices. But one of the things that I heard Stacy said is, he said, good first weekend pop comes from 2 places. Number 1 is getting a rabbit every week and knowing who that person is and having private one-on-one conversations or things like that. And then number 2 is making sure no goose eggs, everybody sells something. We all know that stuff, but really setting that expectation that right now people are saving a ton of money. The example that he talked about was, if you're a family of 4, it's what, $75 to go out to eat. Of course, it could be more than that at a fancy place and less than that at a cheap place. But if it's an average of 75, 4 times a week, if you're taking your family out, that's $300. You're not going out to eat anymore like that. So now that's over 4 weeks, a $1,200 savings. And even if you have to put a third of that back into food and groceries to still eat, that's still saving $800, $900. And then he talked about gas going down and how gas is so much cheaper. Plus people aren't driving anymore. So, you're filling up like half the amounts of time, right? So he used those examples and then talked about, in America, at least with the stimulus check that's coming and how much they'll be getting from that, plus tax returns happening, putting all that together, people could buy a Cutco kitchen and be set for life and never have to worry about buying cooking supplies again. And then also on the small average order side, he talked about with productivity, giving examples like, hey, if they're saving 1 tank of gas every month, which they're probably saving more, that means that they could buy a trimmer on a 2-pay, right? So everybody needs something, everybody can afford something. And that's why our team's so strong, because we don't have no sales. Everybody sees something out of the 100+ products that we make that would be useful, especially because they're cooking at home more. So just giving more examples that are more meaningful and I think catered towards the times that we have right now. And he just said that the managers who have managed their reps the right way and acted as if they were running in-person training, right, are getting the exact same results. So I think, again, it's just all about how we're showing up. And I'll send that document out to you guys and some really good things. And I'm going to post a couple links too. So I wanted to start. Again, I haven't run my own, but I'm really fired up about it today with 21 set and some really quality kids. And it's cool because I can see all their faces and really connect. And I'm really enjoying that. So that's what I got. Any other best practices that we can share? I'd love to hear and learn from you guys too.
Olean is working on a document, so I just had asked Joe if we could put together like a quarantine Cutco cooking at home set, just to kind of like capitalize on the, that. And so we're gonna do it where it's a paring knife, a trimmer, a petite santoku, and a can opener. And they're gonna put together like a little promo set, just because they can do it like professionally. And then we've always used these summer starter sales to give new baby reps, because the challenge that they're having is they just have to get really good at dropping down. And that's a challenge just regardless, right? So we've put together we've always used these summer starter sales, which is like a petite carver and a cheese knife. And they're kind of like 2 or 3 piece, like little baby specials that show the regular price and stuff like that. So I think they're going to redo those, and we're going to just promote those now as, I don't know what we're going to promote them as, but just reps have those. And I don't know, we always wait till the summer to give them out, which is kind of silly because they should have them all the time. But I think that will help. And just having the expectation of, I'd rather have a rep do 10 demos and sell $100 in every demo than do 10 demos and just sell 1 set. So just really, speaking to that, and that I think will help with just helping them promote it.
Yeah, I love that. And, one of the things I've noticed too is that our CSPs, the ones who are choosing to, reaching out to all their past customers, they're getting a tremendous amount of success. And one of the things Curtis mentioned was that when these guys are reaching out to their past customers, just out of concern and care, they are getting not only sales, but what they're really getting is a commitment from the client to them for the next 5 to 10 years. And I thought that was really cool. Like, just thank you so much for calling and thinking of me. Curtis with the remote demo or the remote service call, he's loving that because it's such a cool opportunity for him to be able to like teach them how to use Zoom. And then all of a sudden this 68-year-old lady will like, oh, I can see myself. And then she's showing them around the house. Like, you got to listen to the video. There's some fun stories in there. So I just thought that was so cool with the people reaching out and getting past customers back. And the last thing I wanted to mention about that CSP thing in response to what you said there, Shayla, is that I talked to my guy, Carlton Thompson, and I said, this is a slingshot for managers and for reps. And it might feel like we're slowing down or holding back a little bit, but it's going to be ridiculous when it launches forward. Now, the first thing for managers is, of course, recruiting goes up. And even if our average order goes down, our workforce increases, which means we get a ton new customers. It also means we get a ton new reps. And I said, so the managers are the first to benefit. But let me talk about that when this thing passes and shows do start back up, this is going to be a 1 to 2 year plus effect for all CSPs. And let me tell you why. We're going to have clients we've never had before. They've never bought Cutco before because of all the new recruits. And these clients are going to love Cutco. And when that rep leaves a year from now, or whenever they leave, the majority do, they're all going to be left without a rep. And so I said, you understand that in the next 1 to 2 years, this could be the reason that you take it from 3 to 500,000. And what I'm calling it is the free market. There is going to be a major increase of clientele on the Cutco free market for all of our CSPs to clean up. And I said, if our average order goes down right now, here's what's crazy. They're not selling homemakers and ultimates like they may have used to. They're selling freaking starter sets and 3-piece specials. I said, so think about the amount of revenue and income that comes from that when you take these 3-piece specials and upgrade them to a big set, or when you package deal that client, because it's a whole new customer base you've never had before. So if anything, I think this is going to saturate the market, right, with a ton of new customers in business so that these CSPs have a huge residual for the next 2 to 3 years. And again, managers benefit first, but the CSPs come second. And that's another responsibility we have to really own this recruiting so that we can protect our most important group. And that's, in my opinion, right, our CSPs. I mean, these guys generate more than DMs do sometimes, right? Most times. Like these guys, and they, by the way, we get paid more off that too, right? So when I think about that, it's like these are our most important people in the organization, and that events team, even though it's getting hit hard right now, it's going to flourish, it's going to bounce back, and I'm so excited. So that's been a good conversation I'm having about that long-term thinking that's been helping out.
Well, and on that point, I think that, think fast forward to September and our Leadership Academy. I mean, we have a really good shot with these quality recruits if we're focusing on the key people. I mean, if we can show them that we can thrive in this kind of environment and be positive and be that, I mean, think about having 100 in TLA, like as a real thing. And then just if they can weather this and start in the business like this, I mean, wow, like that's what I'm excited for. I mean, I just want to fast forward and get through this, to September and be like, okay, fall. But yeah, I think, yeah, you nailed it. That's great points.
Cool. And Lloyd mentioned that too. Like nobody will be able to beat you at an interview in the future 5 to 10 years from now when they say, so what challenges have you gone through? And it's like, well, I started my own business during the freaking coronavirus or the pandemic. It's like, you're unstoppable, right? At that point. And on the point of like high quality recruits, Shayla, I believe that too. The people that would normally never even look at us, right? Because they had an internship or because even they came from the wealthy background. And for the last 3 years, they've been a lifeguard. They don't have that option anymore, right? They just did the easy job and they didn't really need money. Well, now they don't have anywhere else to look. Not to mention, I also believe that the kids that are from the backgrounds where they don't have to work, their parents are going to get so sick of them being at home right now, they're going to force them to go and do something, right? And so those kids are going to be looking at us too. So I really do believe from all types of angles, even more than I've discussed, that our quality is going to skyrocket. And if we're intentional about pinpointing and, being a sniper and finding those right kids, you're right. Not only can quantity go up, that quality can go up. And I believe for management, this development, what I'm telling my guys is the next 3 months could equal our development for the next 3 years, right? Like legitimately, if you're intentional about it, and it could totally level up our game. This could be the reason that we end up hitting like Bruce's mission of 500 million, right? Or $1 billion company that he's been talking about for years. So really cool. What about you, Jaymison? Any best practices or any more you want to share with Shayla? This is great. I could do this for another 30 minutes, but
yeah, I had a couple questions. I was just jotting down a few things. Your confirmation call, are you doing that as you're accepting people, or is this like a follow-up call to before training?
So we're doing a follow-up call before training. Most of our passive recruits, web, Craigslist, whatever, they're all going through text to schedule right now. I know that they're working on a next layer of that or 2.0, and there's some managers on the test program I heard about. But we're just doing this all through phone call using Mike Monroe's document. We are talking about Zoom during that. We are sending them an email with like a brainstorming list that I've shared with you guys. But we're also mentioning, hey, we're going to call you on Thursday just to make sure you don't have any, questions, right? So we did that last night. We called between 7 and 9 p.m. in the evening, double tapped everybody just like a normal confirmation call. We went through the script and really drove the names list. But the biggest thing we just talked about is, hey, are you familiar with the Zoom? And more now than ever, people are like, oh yeah, I've been on Zoom for all my classes. Cool. Well, just to let you know, when it comes to your classes, your teachers probably don't fully know the software and it might be new to them or new to you. It's not new to us. We've been using this for years. And as a $250 million marketing firm, we do have social media etiquette. We do have Zoom etiquette. So I wanted to walk through a couple of those tips right now with you. And then that's basically instead of like, park in the right place, dress nice, things like that, we're talking about being in a quiet spot, using a laptop or a tablet, not your phone, so there's no distractions, being in a position where you've got good lighting, right? You can have your audio on, not interrupted. You can be engaged, like just those types of tips going through it. And then just asking them, can you handle that, right? And if they're like, well, I'm going to have to work on this, then we're troubleshooting that. We're popping fear bubbles right off the bat. And then the last thing we're just doing is really talking about the importance of building the names list. And one of my DMs actually created a Google sheet now that we're also sending. And it's basically the welcome sheet or the more we get to know you sheet, right? That they normally fill out. So we're sending that to them the night before. And when they put in their answers, what we found is really cool is now it's all on an Excel sheet. So if you use Q or if you use Web PDI, you can just copy their answers and now you know all of it, right? You don't have to like type it up. It's pretty simple. And then the other thing that we're doing with that is making sure that we set the expectation to send us a photo before training starts of their names list, so we have accountability to like how many names they actually wrote down. And then also during showing up early, right? 15 minutes early so we can hang out, get to know each other better. I've even considered when I get bigger groups, I don't know how well this would work, but doing a breakout, right? So one of the things that John Vroman taught me is, when training begins, it's like, hey, we don't want to train with strangers. We want to practice our people skills and rapport building. So everybody find a partner. We want you to meet, at least one person, find out one interesting fact. So doing a breakout room for like 3 minutes, right? Where with one person where they have to get to know them, bringing it back together and saying, cool, what did we learn about each other? And then we just get people to share, and that kind of warms up the group for that first 5 to 10 minutes as well. So that was a longer answer than just confirmation call, but yeah, that's what we're working on.
That
I
was helpful. Yeah.
I can share an email that I sent too. So I kind of put everything together. So we did confirmation calls. My whole thing was I had 75 scheduled for my office, and I'm like, okay, if I'm going to scale this, like this isn't overly practical to be doing this every week if we're going to be calling 75 people. So I uploaded the documents to our Vector Canada Leaders site, so I can just send them the short link to the website. And then instead of attaching all the emails, and then in the email I sent them, it had tips like right in there on Zoom. So it was like just professional. And then we still did what Nick did with, with the confirmation calls, but I can just send you an example of the email, and then it goes right to the link of the demo guide and the training manual. You guys are just using the website, right? Your Cutco demo or whatever. Is that where you're sending them? Like, are you having them print off something or anything like that?
Yeah. So we, our initial plan a couple weeks ago was we created a Dropbox file that they could, download like the training manual, print out and everything. I just posted 2 sites right now. I can share them with you if you want me to. But
Yeah,
this,
those ones.
yeah, Drew and West have built. So we don't need them to have anything to print out or anything to be viewing or screen sharing, because again, we're using their 2-day training videos. So by using those, these 2 websites are now embedded into the training that they run. And that's what we're using to teach the virtual appointment. So, and what's cool about it is they both, I don't know how well you've looked into them, but they're really powerful. They both scroll along at the same times and give instructions and screenshots. And one of the things that Wes just did, if you want to, do you want me to share it real quick? Or have you guys looked through these? Yeah.
Okay, go for it.
Okay, cool. So I'll share my screen with where I'm at. And I can show you. But one of the things that I thought was really cool, man. By the way, there's another link I'll share, but it had 25 tips to making your Zoom meetings awesome, and it was by a guy named Mike something. I don't know if you've watched it, but there were so many great tips and like things that we could share in there. So let me go to. I'll go to the rep side or the manager or the rep side first. So there's 2 landing pages here, and because of this website, the rep no longer needs to know how to print something off or anything like that. And what's also cool is that everything's loaded in here too. So Wes has shared this with the whole company. They're not charging for it. It's an open free site for everybody to use. But again, it mainly goes along with the video training that they're using. So I will show you these 2, hopefully when they load. But what's cool about this one is the training manual is already embedded and built in. So you've got, all the numbers at the top, the tips for your demo, all is based on remote now. What's cool is it's showing Cutco owners and all the things that would be in the normal training manual are already loaded. And what's neat about it is every one of these blue lines is identical with the customer page that they see. So it talks to them about what they're seeing, what you're seeing, and they've changed a lot of the words. So the building rapport, social etiquette, this is the first slide that the customer sees. And I'll show you that in just a sec. They've got all the goals already built in. Tips, tie them into goals, transitioning to the demo. And then at this point, instead of having to talk about disadvantages and perks of ours, they've used what Mike Monroe's put into the product video for training, and it's just a 10-minute video. So they watch that, customer learns it all. They don't have to do much talking, and it gives you lines to use as tips for your demo and how to get the client into it. It then transitions to the homemaker with the 3 largest sets. It's a slideshow with every piece and a preloaded video that's embedded. So it's super simple, and they just talk to them and build a relationship through that about the different ones. After the video ends, right, going on a full screen and talking about the homemaker set, and it's got all the words in here. So paring knife, trimmer, right, spatula, blah, blah, blah. So it goes through all of that. And there's some videos they've recorded. You've got storage options, kitchen tools, the summary, the price comparison. So it's all the slides and screenshots of what they're seeing. They're saying it word for word with the prices, and then working on handling knee-jerk reactions, the bigger sets, and then dropping down. So the whole manual is already embedded in the site. They just have to go through. What I thought was really cool is what he built into page 9, and I'll show you this. On page 9 for the rep, there's a link here, and if they click that, it reloads the page, but it reloads it with all of the prices built in. So that way you can use this as your training. But then with the prices, it's already got prices of the homemaker built in, prices of the starter sets built in, prices of, the chart and everything like that, right? So I thought that was a really cool tool. And then it's got product details, gifts and accessories, phoning, and recommendations. And on the recommendations part, this is kind of neat, but he's already embedded the link for being able to get virtual recommendations that the company uses. So this is built in right here with helpmehitmygoal.com. You go to that, they can put your email in and type in all the names and numbers of their clients, and it emails the rep exactly all those names and numbers. So pretty neat.
Click on that, help me. Can you click on that link? I just want to see what it goes to.
Yeah, for sure. So it's basically a Google form and a Google sheet. I've got way too many browsers open right now, but anyway, it goes to that sheet, and basically what it is just, hey, thanks so much for hitting my goal. It says put your rep email in, right? And the rep just says, hey, here's my email address. They put it at the top, and then it just has name and name and phone number up to 15. And it's got stars at 5, stars at 10, 3 stars at 15. And then the rep is just trying to get them to fill out the majority of that. And then when they click submit, it emails all those names and phone numbers right to the rep's email.
That's cool.
Yeah. Hopefully I can get the other one working here. Anyway, I'll stop the share now and I'll see if my computer will load. But the really neat part for the customer site is it's just like I said, all those screenshots, and it's got the blue line. So they're just watching a video, talking to the rep, and then scrolling down. So it's a lot less clicks. It's a lot easier to navigate for them. And since it only goes up and down linear, it's not like all over the place like a Prezi. We found that a lot of our Mac clients, they understand how to scroll down a page like email a lot better than they do about linking around and all the little buttons. So yeah, that's the best practice that we've used.
Have you guys seen the demo guide that was put together for the video training?
No.
Do you want me to show you that?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Because I think it's a good and edition. It's super professionally done. Let me just share my screen here. And I think it's just like whatever you feel confident using. And it's not to replace the demo guide. So this is our site here. So I just added a tab to go to Kenrock training, and then they just go here. But the workbook is it basically just a really good building value in the company. It loads here. So it talks about so this is the vector workbook. So yeah, okay, you guys are using that. So yeah, you are using that. So you've seen this, Nick, then? Have you seen this?
Yeah, well, I'm on a test program for new training.
Okay, but so Nick, have you seen this?
So my computer screen has frozen on Zoom.
Oh, okay.
So right now I have, all three of us have phenomenal faces. I hope that it just pauses in the recording like that too. But I'll let you know when it pops up.
Okay. Jaymison, isn't this amazing?
Yeah. I really like it. If you follow it, it's a different agenda, I guess you can say, than training that I'm used to. But I really do like the angle of it and like how it makes people.
Are you using the videos then along with it?
I am, yeah.
Okay.
And we're since we're on that program, there's two things that actually have been helping out with Zoom with that. So like our day one is 7.5 hours. So what I did is I just sped up the video to 1.2 times speed. So that shaved off an hour, which was great for phoning and other things. So
yeah. Are you doing 2-day though?
Yeah, I'm running 2-day.
Okay, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So
I'd like to talk to you guys in a month because we're all running different things, right? Nick's doing the 2-day Drew, you're doing the 2-day video, I'm doing 3-day, and I'm kind of doing this workbook-ish along, but I'm still teaching. So when the girl talks, I scripted a lot of her stuff and I'm just teaching it, which Mike's like, are you serious? You scripted? I was like, well, I went through the online training and I thought it was awesome. I loved how she, the stats and all the info, I loved that. Yeah.
You guys still there?
And
I did too.
Nick, did you unfreeze? Then they have to go back into, into something else. Hey, are you unfrozen? Okay, I'll share it again and see if it works.
My video was trying to finally catch up, but I got to see a little bit of it, and then my audio.
Yeah, you look at this.
Cool.
So it's a workbook that they can use throughout the training, but what's cool about it is it's just got so many great stats in here
Wow.
and
Yeah.
links, and it just looks so well done.
Caleb,
And go ahead, sorry.
I was just going to tell you that one of my thought processes about like having to, not teaching the same demo or whatever. Where we're at, I'm kind of under the impression, the assumption that we're going to be quarantined for well beyond another month, right?
Yeah.
So I think that it's gonna extend longer. That's my personal feeling, and I would rather train them on something that they're going to use for the first 4 to 6 weeks of their career, like consistently. And then once that launches, just doing like a 1 day, like this is a face-to-face demo clinic, like come in, it's a 3-hour training for all of you guys learning how to do it. And then just, cause it's not significantly different. Especially if they're still around after 4 to 6 weeks and they're being productive, like this is only going to up them, and they're going to be excited to learn how to do that stuff versus the other way. So the videos that we are teaching right now is the video demo. Because that's more in line with the virtual demo that we're using. So ours is very similar to the one that Nick, you shared, but it doesn't go into the drop down process the same way. It quotes prices. And I think a lot of the stuff that we just don't like I know for me, that's been like my biggest pushback is like, I want to stay in control of the drop down and like the price quoting, but I also have to recognize like the objective here is to get the new reps their first couple of orders right away. And then you can always teach them how to drop down later. So that's been a little bit of a battle, but that's been helpful. So another thing I was going to say with Zoom that's been really helpful if you guys are doing division. So I really love that you got the names. We've been having them do their intro paperwork in their breakout room with their manager. So as soon as they log in, I put them into a breakout room with just their office. So since there's multiple offices on there, they're getting to know their manager. Their manager's doing introductions in that team. And then during role play, we break them back out in their office, and the manager's like role playing with people one-on-one in front of the group, bringing them back in. And then like phone time or like phone role play, they're role playing as a team. And then right before the phone jam, one of the things we did is we said, hey, this is actually an office versus office contest to see which office can schedule the most appointments. And all of the managers have their queue up. And then I have this like tracking board. So, and it's obviously not beautiful, but I just kind of like pivot my computer so you can see like how many demos got set up for the weekend. So from the training classes. So that's been something that's pretty helpful. And
what's the website that you guys teach that for your video demo?
Get Vector Trained is the website.
Okay.
And I believe it's my cut code demo.
Yep.
And so is this video demo like just literally the reps just play it? Like they just get on the phone, the customer hits play, and they just watch a demo and the rep doesn't talk?
I think so, right?
It's very similar to what you just saw there, but the difference between the one that Nick just went through and the Get Vector Trained one is that it's going to quote the prices of the signature, the homemaker, and the essentials as an initial starting point for the close. And it still drops down the same, but there's not as much like, this is what the paring knife is for, this is what the trimmer is for, this is what the spatula spreader is for, because it's very quickly covered in that first video. However, when you get down to the end, like one of the things that I realized, like last week I was like, all right, end of training, any final questions, right? And I kid you not, the first question that I got was a rep like, what's a paring knife? And I'm like, we are in trouble. So I made the adjustment to not just teach the virtual demo and realize like, I got to make sure that I'm going through these names and uses, and they understand enough to be able to like walk the customer through it. And I'm like, okay. But that group feel has been pretty good. I was gonna say, and I don't know if they have this up there, Nick. Nick, I know you're in the U.S., so I don't know if they do it in Canada. But I would say if you haven't already looked into those SBA loans too, like if you have yourself as a corporation, you pay yourself a payroll. The SBA loan is essentially a grant for about $10,000. So, and that's a forgivable loan if it's utilized for like office rent and payroll. So I'm sure if you talk to Nick Smith is probably all over it too and done like tons of research, but my bookkeeper and my CPA have been telling me about him, and I filled out the application for it. So that's just in regards to this. It's basically $10,000 to help offset the cost of business, and we all felt an offset in business when our events shut down. So that's not really training related, but
Yeah.
letting go get your free 10 grand.
Yeah.
As a
When you
business.
say forgivable loan, what does that mean? Like, I don't understand. Does that mean we have to pay back, or?
So the way the loans are structured is, and this is from my understanding, is that depending on the size of your revenue and how much your business makes, you can take out these really big loans. Up to $2 million is what the stimulus package indicates, right? Neither of us are operating at a point where we need to take out a $2 million loan, but basically the opening rate, I believe, is 3.5%. And then what happens is the first 10,000 of that loan, if it's utilized for payroll and other office expenses or business expenses as either an independent contractor, like a 1099, or a small business owner with less than, I think it's 200 employees. Mm-hmm. So if you're in that window and you're utilizing that money for those things, the first 10 grand is essentially just turns into a grant, right? It's like the 10K is forgiven. So basically I'm taking out a $10,000 loan. I'm using it to pay my office rent, my personal payroll, my office assistants, because I have a couple of people that I have that I'm paying $1 over minimum wage. So yeah, this is just to help you out. A couple of my other buddies that aren't even in Vector, I gave them this information. They've even been more diligent than me, because it's a long bill, but they got into it and they're like, yeah, this is great. I filled out the paperwork, I'm getting 10 grand. I got a buddy that's got 2 corporations, right? One is his advertising business. Another one is a brick and mortar shop. And he's going to get, he's applied for 2. So just those types of things could be super helpful. And if you have any performing DMs that are over the earning threshold to be able to qualify for those SBAs, it's worth at least investigating or talking to your CPA about.
Awesome. Thank you. Very, very good. Well, guys, I do want to be respectful of time. I mean, I'm willing to keep the recording going and share. If you guys need to bounce, that's fine. One thing I wanted to share with both of you, I'm sure you know this, but if you click the share screen, I'm going to do it right now. There's something called Whiteboard. And have you guys seen Whiteboard built into Zoom?
Yeah, it's awesome, because then you can use it when they're doing my reps are doing Zoom demos where they're just using their own screen and then using the whiteboard to draw the prices. Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, so this is cool because Jaymison, you can use this and you can type in whatever the Calgary office, right? And then you can keep count of this, and you can also use these stamps that they have up top. So, I think there's different types of stamps and things, but you could do check marks, right? And see how many demos they've done and things like that. So I don't know if you've experienced that, but the cool thing is if you stop the share and then you reshare, it saves all that on the whiteboard for that meeting and it pops back up again.
Where that's also a game changer is when you do a PC. So if you're doing your napkin talk or you're sitting down with someone, so in the coming weeks when we start talking about the fall and, the future and stuff, is you get on there and you go, so Jaymison, tell me a little bit about da-da-da, and you write down school, grad date. Okay, let me just share with you, what's in it for you and your goals. And you map it out and you type it, you screenshot it, you email it to them, or you can save it. And then you've got these PCs, just like how you would on a piece of paper. So it's, super great tool.
Way better than what I used to do before Zoom. And I'd be like, all right, do you see your PC? All right, good. So what we talked about, right? So a little bit more professional on that front, no doubt. Cool. I don't know if my other browser for the Cutco demo didn't pop up, but you guys could check it out. There's a good recording that was sent out to DDMs that are on the video training as well. But actually, you know what? It did. So let me take 30 seconds and show you just real quick. So this is what the customer sees, right? And they're able to scroll down with sharing the goals. There's the 10-minute video about names, crappy knives versus good knives. Then you've got the Cutco homemaker set and just a slideshow they can watch. And then right down here, you've got the set options. I think that this one shows the homemaker, the signature, and the ultimate. And then you have the price comparison that's built into that with the slideshow. And then right below that, they can drop down to cookware, flatware, gifts, and accessories. And that's just the home page. They also have this landing page up here for the Forever Guarantee. And then I thought this was really neat. Own Cutco link that they can review with them as well. And that has all the details built into it as well. So anyway, you got the Forever Guarantee, you got that one. for some reason, I think it's frozen, but I think you get the point. So both those websites are great to go and check out and to be able to navigate with your with the clients.
Hey, quick, are you hardwired for your internet right now?
I'm not. I'm on Wi-Fi.
So I would, that's the other thing that I noticed, especially with my kids. My kids are trying to stream or video game or do stuff so my Wi-Fi was just like real spotty. And then I just bought an adapter on Amazon. I don't know what computer you have, but I basically just got that and a long Ethernet cord. So now we're hardwired and experiencing way less like technical difficulties. So
Love
just another thing to do, like just to consider, just to reduce the chance of anything happening in the middle of a training or something.
Yeah, thank you for that. The other thing, that video I'll text out. I'm going to share it through the band GroupMe with just tips for making your Zoom meetings great. It's only 19 minutes, but he shares 25 tips, and it's all screenshots and pretty cool stuff. One of them I just posted in the group chat, but Shayla, you mentioned that you'd spent time like scripting things out. If you go to otter.ai, it's a app that you can upload, and it will auto type out all the words from anything that's being discussed. And if it's on Zoom, it even breaks it up into what user talked about it. So like right now, if I'm talking, it would say Nick Matlack and then exactly what I said. And then if Jaymison started talking, it would create like an like a separation for paragraph and say Jaymison Jones and then exactly what you said. So basically it takes like, no time to do. I think that you have to pay for it, but I thought that would save us a lot of time. There's things that need to be scripted out. So
are you guys still using GroupMe as your main like connection with like communicating? Yeah.
I am. I looked into Slack and I think it's awesome. Right now, I looked into Slack before everything got crazy, but for our region, everyone's just kind of stuck on GroupMe right now. And so, but the research that I did on Slack was phenomenal. I think you really took advantage of that. And Mike Monroe and also this Mike video talked about using Slack as a productivity tool. So I hear more and more from that.
Yeah, I wonder, you're doing GroupMe too, Jaymison?
Yeah, we use GroupMe. I was saying my wife, she works for an international law, like the law department for like a big international company. So they're based all over the world, like Germany, Australia, etc. So they do everything on Slack. And so that's the way they do a lot of their communicating. I was going to ask though, if you guys are using anything to communicate expectations or responsibilities with your staff. Like that's one of the things that I could use a little bit of help with. I was hoping to like, in my mind, if there was something like, I saw on monday.com, they have it, but it's pretty expensive, but it's where you can put like a task list and people can put like their progress on different projects. And it's like on this board. And then as they get completed, they get kind of like checked off and then things like move up the list. But I was hoping to try to figure out a way to utilize a similar program to have like, our PR goals or recruiting goals and things like that. So like as we're getting closer to each training seminar, just having these lists refresh or just having tasks that they can work on, because my AMs are working differently than I've had them work before, So that's one of the things I'm trying to figure out best practices for managing those guys.
So I don't have an app for you. Brian Stevenson, though, with having 2 divisions right now in his pilot, what he said he's doing is he's doing a morning team huddle. Drew Frank brought that up too. So if you're on AM staff, there's a morning meeting. And I think that they're doing it at like 8 or 8:30. It's only 15 minutes long. Everybody jumps onto Zoom. They talk about what progress they did yesterday. They talk about action steps or critical 6 for today, and then they move forward. On GroupMe with my staff right now, I'm using the SPAR app, which is a way for financial accountability. If you haven't used it before, and I think I've shared that before, but it's $5 a day if you don't post your 9 a.m. critical update and then your 9 p.m. like accountability. But what's cool about it is just using the platform. Brian Stevenson mentioned that what they're really doing is they're creating like a Zoom platform. And if you're in the office, you're on Zoom working, even if you're on mute or whatever, but there's public accountability so he can check in. And he said that like if a rep needs a PC, then he just creates a breakout room with a separate ID. That rep goes in with the manager, does it, and he can pop in and watch if he needs to. And then they jump, and then the AM jumps back in and said, hey, I just did that. Or like a virtual phone jam. Nope, I'm running a virtual phone jam. So everybody has the same code. They all join the main room. And then it's like, great. So if you're there for the phone jam, we're going to get that started. By the way, Shayla is going to be our AM leading the workshop. So here we go. And this throws them off to the breakout room. you can pop in and see how that's going. But it really creates like a virtual office, if you will. And last thing that Brian said is that he's, instead of messaging like all 50 for social media in the morning, he's found that it's a lot better if they use those as breaks, because it's kind of a brain dead activity. So instead of getting locked out, their goal is not to get locked out, but to send like 10 messages in the morning, then follow up with some PRs, do PDI, send another 10 messages later. So throughout the day, they're getting like 50 messages out on Facebook, 50 out on Instagram with Social Jumpstart, and they're getting a lot better, a lot better, I guess, energy from the AMs, because they're not getting like just like, kind of just bored with just messaging. They're sending out a few and then getting a few responses, and that creates more positive, I guess, experience when they start to message again. So I don't know technology wise, but those are just some ideas that came to mind.
Yeah. The other idea that, that we had was just creating a Google Doc with like all the tasks that had to get done. And then based on that day. So if you're in the AM, so we're just doing office hours. So, and I did it last week and it was awesome. So basically on our April calendar, it just has office hours, 1 to 3 or 9 to noon or whatever. And then AMs are just scheduled. They just have to be on Zoom, exactly like Nick was saying. But then if they're in the office, then they're doing things like, whatever is on the checklist. And then they're just, if they're on Tuesday, then they just do that. But no fancy apps, just a Google Doc that we've taken our weekly checklist and just moved it into that. And then the office hours has been a game changer, because then you're showing your reps that you've got time available for them. And then like Nick said, you just put them in a breakout, but office hours is really helpful.
When you say office hours, you mean like you're available to talk?
Yeah, totally. So I'm just, again, my office hours today are from 1 to 3. If you need anything, pop on. So I did some last week, just because with my branches and stuff, I was just like, there was just too much happening. I couldn't do like all individual. So I just like, if you guys need me, you can hop on Monday from 1 to 3 or Tuesday from 11 to 1. And I just got on my Zoom like this, and it was just like this. They'd pop in and, hey, what's your questions, Nick? Yeah. Okay, cool. Yep. Hey, Jaymison, you have a question? Okay. And then, Jaymison and I would go on a breakout, and if it was about money or whatever, we would talk about that, or more personal, we'd pop back in. And I was able to just scale my time to a 2-hour office hours versus doing 10, manager, calls or whatever. And then we started our division calls this week, just because we opened up the offices, but before they were all open, a lot of them were in school and this and that. So I was catering my calls with their schedules, but it worked really, really well. And then I plan on doing it for the reps, right? So my assistants, they all have office hours, but then it's just on the April calendar. We post that in Slack, so then they can go to Slack under their rep channel, grab the calendar, and they go, oh, okay, cool. Jamison's got office hours Tuesday from 10 to 12. I'll just hang on. And then we're just trying to be really sensitive with their feelings, that if you're just alone and you're, by yourself, like just hop on office hours, like then you're part of a community. And we're doing morning gratitude calls at 8 a.m. So my guys have to be on. I mean, it's not like they're in trouble if they're not on, but every morning for the last 2 weeks, this will be our 3rd week coming up. They've just asked for it. So at 8 a.m., they hop on a Zoom. I don't care if they're in their jammies, whatever. Hop on, 8 o'clock, it's 10 minutes. They all zip around. They share what they're grateful for, their intention for the day, and they're loving it. Like, loving it. And then I just make them stay on for PDI. They just mute themselves. And then all the AMs, all the managers just do PDI on Zoom, and they're being accountable. I'm like, guys, this is your real job. If you were in your office, like you'd be up and at your office. So get your shit together, shower, be ready to go. And you do PDI and they're all on Zoom. So that's going to start with full effect on Monday, but all my branches and districts will be on Zoom. And I said, I know it feels a bit like babysitting, call it that if you want, but it's accountability, because you should be doing it anyways. So I'm like, it's going to suck, but we're doing it. So that's how I'm holding them accountable, at least for PDI. Because I feel like if they get the energy in the morning from connecting with their team, it should set them up for the rest of the day to like be able to get going. It's just the going part. So we start with some gratitude, some intention, and then we do that. So that's what I'm doing, but who knows? I think that lots of ideas will come from it. So I'd love for us to keep sharing ideas, because it's the little things that go a long way with this kind of stuff. So.
Yeah, totally. I love the idea of just office hours, even if you have your couple of, DVM calls where there is content and, a checklist that you want to hit on and discuss, just being able to have that space provided if people need time, and them knowing what it is, and if it's consistent, how powerful. I love that. And sometimes what I found is like, not that I've done office hours before, but like I'll give an example. At like a division meeting, we do a manager breakout for 30 minutes, and we'll do something like that discussion where somebody will ask a question, and you've got other managers that chime in that have better answers than you may have. So I can imagine that could be a platform or an environment that would allow people that same type of discussion.
Well, and what's great about it is that when we're in our offices, how many times do people just pop in and like, hey, you got a minute? And you're like, yeah, totally. Yeah, sure. And you stop what you're doing when you're like just super on track of just getting that thing done or whatever. And you're like, yeah, for sure. How are you? How's it going? Right. And that's what we love about the job is the people part of it, where at least this is like super, super structured. So you're like, hey, like this is all I'm intending to do right now. I'm not being interrupted. I'm not in a call. I'm not this. Like, it's like, hey, shoot, go ahead. Right. Like, how's it going? And so I actually found it way more productive versus being like throughout the day, hey, did you have a minute? And you're like, damn it.
Even when you get a question like, do you have a minute? It's like, yeah, in my office hours tomorrow from 3 to 5, right? So it's like, that's so much easier. And then you don't feel guilty about it, putting it off and not getting back to it.
Yep, 100%. Yeah.
Is it urgent? Is it important? Okay, well, if it's important, then let's talk about it tomorrow. That's so cool.
Yeah, and I've just in training, I just made like a document that basically just says like PDI communication, like in this office. And it has everything laid out. So I'm like, you guys got this document and it has their team leaders info. And then it just talks about, and then what we've been doing is we've been recording some of the virtual demos. And then we basically just said, if you have 3 demos in a row that a sale, you stop, you are going to, grab a field training. Essentially we're calling it, right? You're going to go on a field training, which is you're going to watch a virtual demo, take notes, give me some feedback on what you learned, and then you can get back out there again. And so that's just sort of a way that we've been able to
I love that.
stop
Did
those.
you share that document? That sounds really cool. I know everybody's got a few different variations of PDI expectations. So I would love to see how you've made adjustments in this.
Yeah, I'll send it to you.
Yeah,
I like that too. We've always had the office communication document that goes along with the video training that Wes and Drew have had for years. But we've, what I've had to add to that is if you have 5 no sales in a row, stop doing demos, get a management PC. But I think now with like doing virtuals, we need to be more sensitive to that. So I love that you've lowered that down to 3 in a row.
Yeah. And what's great is if you can get your hands on a couple of recorded demos, all you have to do, because typically like in real demos, it's like sometimes challenging to get them on a field training, right? Like it sounds easy, but here it's like, you're going to go on a field training. You're going to go watch and then they're like, oh, okay. You send them the link. They watch the demo. Which you're like, oh, that was amazing. Oh, great. They get out there again, get batted around. Okay, great. Hey, watch, Maddie's demo. And I think it's going to be easier to do it that way versus trying to get them on a demo. But yeah, I'll send you guys these guidelines that we did, and I'd be open to some thoughts on if you made some changes.
Where do you store all the virtual demo recordings and stuff? Do you have is that public?
Yeah, so that website I just showed you? I'm putting them all there. So it's just a vectorcanadaleaders.com, and then it's synced up to my Dropbox. But what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to teach them practices. So like when I scale the business in the fall with Leadership Academy, is if I can train the reps to go to this website to get the documents, then as a manager, that's where we store everything as well. That's where our depth chart is. So I'm kind of funneling to go there. And then with Slack, I just have everything by channel, right? So when they get invited to the SLDM meeting, they get invited to that channel. And then if they go to key staff, they're in the key staff channel. I've got my CanRock leaders channel. I've got my trade show channel. So I know you guys group me, and I don't know if you guys do it by like different categories, but what's awesome about the Slack is that then you can just scale it as they grow in the business. It's like, okay, great. I'm going to invite you to the trade show channel. And then now they're in the loop of the trade shows. And so it's basically just having these folders, and you can just put documents right in there. So, and then my Dropbox for CanRock division just gets synced right to that website. So the goal is that if they come up that way by going to that site, then when they're in Leadership Academy, it's just a part of how they do the business. And then what's cool about Slack too is that they can go on there, and if they have a question, they just post it in the I have a question. And then we use the different, like the red dots is urgent. Well, the home office is part of that too. So Angie or Denise or Sherry or Joe can say, oh yeah, just go here. And then they're kind of problem solving within each other, which I really like. And then you can tag people, you can recognize it. And then for my team meeting last night, like I can post the recordings right in Slack so they can watch the videos I posted. So once you make the change, it's a really easy way to scale the business. And so that's kind of where we're putting it, but I'll post these guidelines here.
Yeah, that's incredible.
And I know people don't like the change of it, but like just even like me with Q, I'm like, oh, I don't know, like just even I think all this virtual stuff has just forced me to get out of what I'm used to doing, right, and make me learn. So I'm just like, F it, like we'll start with this new training group, and I just basically said like this is how we roll with Q, and then we just got all the team on Slack. And I have never had my team reps on Slack. It's only been if you're like rising, like if you're SLDM, you kind of get invited. But then from there, then you can create your SC2 Push Alliance channel. You can share the Zoom links in there. You can post videos. Like I can do a quick recording and post a video and say, hey team, looking forward to having you tonight. Like, I don't know if you guys can do videos in GroupMe, but it's just super
30
scalable.
seconds is the limit. So
It's what?
30 seconds is the limit.
Oh, okay. So anyways, yeah, but I shared that.
That is a great place to build a community too. Better than GroupMe, better than a lot of those things.
Well, just the culture is just like really cool. Like I'll just show you guys, and I know that you're not going to change it now because it's like you're already in the heat of everything, but I'll show you like for example, like we've got like my interview updates, for example. So when you talk about accountability, like I can see what happened yesterday when Jade ran these interviews. I have a question, right? So like she's talking about which phone she should get. So, people can answer there. I've got like, this is my team. So like who's coming to Mexico with us is our PR program. I was able to post like the document there, some examples of posting for Instagram for getting PRs, some of the workshop messages from last night, our agenda for the team meeting, the Zoom link, right? We can post in here. Like this is my executive assistant. So her and I just have a Slack channel. So I'm like, hey, get all the campus ads posted. Here's the new ad, right? She's posting like what's urgent, right? Red dots are urgent. My key staff, right? So I can see some stuff there. That's kind of who was on the call. Then this is the leaders at CanRock. So I can post like some inspirational videos. They can post, like we had 62 people, I guess, in training, right? 54 new reps. I can screenshot and share here. Any motivation stuff, right? You can post in there. Office communications. So this is what I use, Jaymison, for like my office is I can say like, if there's a question, like here's our calendar, for example. So like you can see here, this is for this coming week, is I posted in like our Zoom office hours and then just all the shifts. And then it has like when they're working on there so they can see that. The agenda, so if they're going to give a message, I can tag them. The gratitude calls, our Google form for PRs, for interviews. So that's all office communication type stuff. This is just for me and my pilot manager. So, where are we at with our goals? This is my PR channel. So like my PRAs will post like their, everything goes in here. And then I just green check it when I've got it. So her payroll sheet, I can see how many texts she sent. If there's things I want to track there. We have our sample kit one. So this is kind of where they're at with that. Social Jumpstart, this is kind of near the end there. Our big trade show, that probably isn't happening. And then this is my team leaders. So I could just post like what you shared, Nick, about all those documents. I just posted right in there, like this is pure gold. And they're like, oh, this is awesome, right? I posted here who was at our team meeting last night from our office. You can see like, this one team leader booked 8 of the 9 reps on our team for a PC, and then just our trade show meetings. So it's just kind of by channels, but once they grow up in it. So like the one that I'll reactivate is SLDM, is once I do my SLDM starting next week, I'll funnel them in there. Then they kind of graduate, and then in the fall open up Leadership Academy again. And then this is our Team Canada one that Angie uses. So we put our daily updates in here. So you can see like, these are the updates from the managers. So they all go there for Canada. This is our DVM channel. Hot news can go in here. And then we've got a recruiting report. So I'm sure you guys probably have some of that puts together, like a recruiting report for the division, but they post this in the end of the day. So I can see like, okay, we only recruited 4, but I had 75 for training, I had 32 in, and I can look at my offices. Vancouver had 19. So I can get a snapshot there, and then I can comment, and sales promotion stuff goes here. So any contests, things like that. So it's a lot, to transition, but if you just start with one channel and then you just add the categories as you go along, things just don't get lost. And then you just kind of teach them, like, don't text me, don't call me. I've got my office hours, like, and they use each other a lot more, I find. So just think as we kind of keep building things bigger and bigger and bigger, how can we teach them to be independent versus like reactive? Like there's lots of times I post something in Slack and they text me, I'm like, check Slack, check Slack, go to Slack. Right. And then they build that culture and community. And what's cool is that when you get the reps on there, now what I've noticed is that they're very excited to share, where some of the quieter ones maybe wouldn't have done that before. And they can do like the flame, and they can post and share. And so
seems like it allows them to, you become a leader that teaches them how to think instead of what to think and where to go. And you protect your time a lot more, instead of responding to the text messages in the middle. They're going.
And then you don't lose people because they feel lost. You're teaching them to be kind of independent leaders and be like, hey, you got this, and you've got 1,000 resources right there. So someone had asked, how are you building community and culture during this time? And Slack is a great way to do that, because it's pictures, it's videos, it's documents, and they kind of grow up. So it's not like they just get on Slack and they're in like 17 channels, right? Like it looks like a lot, but you just go to the one that you need the category on. If you want to, I have a question, you go to that. If you go to the conference, you just go to that. Like you're only part of the.
Well, share your code with me so you can get your credit for making the sales pitch. So I'm just
yeah. Well, I was gonna say what, because I'm on Slack right now. Do you guys have, does everybody have their own account, or is it?
We don't pay for it. We just use the free one. So all that you just need to be know is that because to pay for it is like super expensive. Like it's insane. So I use a free account.
Right.
Pardon me?
It's like $7 per person.
Well, and yeah, like it's insane.
month.
It's like we don't even have one. Like Vector Canada doesn't even have one because they're like, Angie's like it's like in the thousands if you want to add everybody. So we just use the free one, and the only I guess disadvantage, but it doesn't really matter because you save all your important documents to a Dropbox anyways. And if they have access to your division Dropbox, then that's where they're going to go for like their stuff anyways. But if you're just posting like an agenda, then it's no big deal. So it only saves to a certain amount. And then once it gets full, so let's say my post from like September, they're just going to get booted out. So it'll keep everything as long as the memory's there, and then they'll just get booted out. But I don't need a video that I put up 7 months ago. Like if I want to save it, I'll save it on my computer. But if it's just a quick like, hey team, like that can go. So that's the only, I guess, if you want to say disadvantage of the free account, but yeah, no. And then you can direct message people too. So if you're, so that's kind of a nice feature too, because then it does eliminate text. And how I promote it is just say, hey guys, I might be up at 5:30 and I want to get some messages out. I don't want to text you at that time. It might be your day off. It might be this and that. So what's cool about Slack is you're just going to check it like you check email. And then I don't really use email with them. Like I don't really send out texts and I don't really, if something's super urgent, I'll send it a text, but I can not do text and I cannot do emails with them. And they just kind of come up to check Slack. And then what's great is if I want to post something really late or really early, I'm not like texting them or their phone's not beeping or whatever. So
I know you shared the link with me, so I'm going to go back and take your platform that you've worked so hard to build and start to try to use that as the start. So I love that.
I would just say with everything being online right now, that this is the time to just create the culture of it, because I think it's super scalable. It's just because in GroupMe, do you guys have like just like a division chat? Do you have like, how do you have your GroupMes set up? Like just one?
Different groups like that, and you can still share links and quick photos and stuff, but it's all linear, right? So it just goes up and down, and there's not a lot of the extra buttons like the check boxes and being able to say something's urgent. Plus it's very easy to get lost in the GroupMe because they're just all individual groups, but we have like our division GroupMe, but then there's not a way to subcategorize that like you have, right, with like different topics. It's just that's the GroupMe for the division, right? And then there's one for the office and then one for every other office. But there's only categories, not subcategories. Yeah. So with the time, we're getting a little bit to the point where I got to be thinking about bouncing, but I did want to ask you guys one last question. We still have our kickoff. Shayla, you ran the summer, or you were a part of the summer kickoff in Canada. How long was that? Was that one day on Zoom or?
3 days. 3 days.
How long each day?
We did Friday, was 6 hours. Friday was 2 to 8. Saturday was 10 to 4:30, and Sunday was 10 to 2. And when I saw the agenda, I was like, holy shit, this is going to be really tough. It was epic. Like guys, I just sent you the email with day one. Go and look at like the links. Do you want me to send you my agenda?
Love that. Yeah. Because we just had a division call and most of our DVMs after the virtual sales summit, they were not very big fans of spending more than a few hours on Zoom all at once. And so our idea is now Sunday, it's one day, and it's only like 3.5 or 4 hours long for the region, which I don't think we're going to get enough content delivered.
We're doing 5 3-hour days, and it's going to be starting next Wednesday, and it's going to be Wednesday, Monday, Wednesday, Monday, Wednesday, just all the way at like for five in a row. But we were in a similar boat where we were very reluctant to pull the trigger on those really long days because of how the virtual summit went. The only argument that was posed that really made sense was, but the virtual summit was a bunch of reps that were like texted by their manager the morning of like, oh, hey, by the way, don't forget to do this, right? And it didn't have the same level of expectation that we would on someone who's running their own business, you know?
Yeah, totally agree with that. Like the summit was just rep, rep, rep. And any of our managers, they were kind of like, because that's not their focus right now. Their focus is running this office. So I just sent you the agenda. So a couple key things. One is I would have dance parties, super easy to do, get everybody up, super fun. Like, just point on someone that's like goofy and be like, okay, Jaymison, you're making the lead, throw some fun music on, get them moving. We did a happy hour. So any of the new district managers that got promoted, we did like an invite only happy hour Friday night for an hour, and Trent Booth was on, and like, it was super fun. Like we all were, I was at my office, but then I came home, and it was just like, we would never be in that platform where, 12 of us would be in the same conversation. So that was super cool. Also, we did a 45-minute break in the middle of the Saturday, and that was key. And I think everyone really appreciated that. I would allow time to just have space for conversations. We like a breakfast with the DVM or something where it's like, hey, if you guys want to hop on 30 minutes before, because they're missing right now at a conference, you get that time at lunch, you get that time here and there that they're not getting. So just allow some space. And then when we did these circuits, that was probably the best takeaway, is we did it where we broke them up into groups. And then it would be like team 1 and team 2, team 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever. But team 1 would have to share all the ideas of how to promote an event at a conference or at a team meeting. And then team 2 would do, great ways to drive activity at a phone jam. They had to brainstorm in their breakouts, and then they came together, the two groups, and then they share and they go, oh, these are, and we've always done this in person, but it was even better on Zoom because they were super focused. And then you're getting all these really cool ideas of how to make a phone jam more exciting. And then you kind of would go to the next group. So that was cool. But I did share the agenda. I found it way different than the summit, like way different. And have like, do a little bit more of an appreciative inquiry where you have questions and then you have them share. So like Angie, if you want to, I think Angie probably shared them in her opening comments, but if you watch Angie's opening comment, she's done a lot of coaching with John Berghoff, and John's been like, doing lots of this stuff for companies. And so she shared off with just some really good questions to kind of get you in the right frame of mind. And then she had people share. So getting more people engaged that way made a difference. But I don't think you'll have a problem running the event because it's totally different focus for the group. And I would say the people that were on the summit that were reps, it was long, but they got really, really excited. Just the branches and districts would be like, it just wasn't their jam. Like they're not ready for that info. They're like, I'm not really selling, I'm recruiting and training a team. So
yeah,
those would be a couple.
I'm a believer that, that if it's compartmentalized the right way, but a lot of our DVM team is just like, not on that level. So watching some of those, getting some of those tips, I think that'll really be big. Last question. I'm with you, Jaymison. I don't think this is only 30 days. I think it's going to be longer. What are you guys doing to pivot when it comes to your summer conferences, division meetings, SC1s, things like that? Where's your mindset? Is it, I think this is going to turn around and we'll still get a hotel and be in person? Or do we think that we need to be really thinking, how do we do this virtually the right way?
Yeah.
It'll be cool.
Yeah, I'm already anticipating virtual. I think that having some sort of remote opportunity for people is going to be something necessary for even once the shelter in place is lifted. Right. I feel like there's going to be 3 different types of people. I think there's going to be one group of people that are like so socially deprived that they are like just wanting to interact with people in any way possible.
Yeah.
We're going to have people that do things the exact same. And then there's going to be a third of people who are very reluctant to get back out there and interact. And I think that we shouldn't alienate that third of people who are going to feel more comfortable working from home. So I don't know if you guys have adjusted mailer language, but I know like we have, work from home opportunities available now added into our mailers and just little things like that. But I'm anticipating doing almost all of these functions remotely pretty much through summer 2020.
Yeah. What's interesting is Wes Frank brought up 2 things. One of them was that when they do open back up to us being a little bit more socially active, it's not going to be a flip switch and just go back to everything the way it was. It's going to be stages, right? So it's going to be a process. It's going to take time. So that alludes to exactly the way you're thinking. The second thing he mentioned is if we are going to do complete remote or virtual types of events, obviously there might be a place people can come locally if they want to be all on the same camera. But he mentioned that we'll be saving a lot of money not doing rentals. And so using that money to increase prizes when it comes to some of our push periods, or to improve trophies or recognition, right? Or even possibly using some of that cash to invest into better equipment to properly handle like a big event, you know. And what I mean by that is a better webcam or microphone, right? Or headset, or, you know, better lighting, right? That video that I'm going to send you guys from that guy, Mike, with the 25 tips to Zoom, has some of those ideas. So I'm glad we're all on the same page, thinking that same way. I think that's really, really accurate. So cool. Well, this has been awesome, guys. I know we've gone longer, but I could, like I said, I said if we could spend another 45 minutes if you wanted to, and we're almost at that time. So it looks like we accomplished our goal. I hope for, you know, those of you that are watching the recording, you got a lot of value out of it. Any last minute things that you guys want to say that haven't been said, or anything?
I just wanted to add for when you're doing your events, if they have a keynote or a PowerPoint and they can screen share, it's way more engaging for them than just listening to a person. And so even if it's just a photo, it's a couple keywords, but if the messages are prepared to the level that they can share a screen and they've got a PowerPoint, it does make it more engaging for their brains to not just be staring at more people talking and be checked out. And then handouts too. We had handouts for all the messages so that they could have it, you know, too, to follow along. And then music. I know it seems like such a simple thing, but when they log on, have music in the breaks, that's upbeat, because if they're just at home by themselves, it makes a difference for environment. But yeah, excited to hear how your guys' go.
Yeah, Nick, I know that we don't really have any more on the agenda, but I've really appreciated the group. And, you know, for people that are open, I would love to keep connecting, especially because things are so variant right now. There's so many different things that we're learning, and I think that we can all benefit from continuing the calls. If that's something that you're open to, obviously, we're all about to enter an even busier season with this dynamic and also the natural dynamic of the summer starting. So, but I really look forward to these calls because it's great to just get insight on what's working all around the company in different ways. So
yeah, I'm all in for that.
I'm all in for that too, and I know other band members can't exactly be on, but we can certainly schedule our next one right now. And my other attitude is that there's, like I always said, one of the number one motivations between putting the band together was getting insights from other regions, because a lot of times we get, you know, kind of compacted within just our culture. And although we're doing things maybe in many ways different formats and stuff like that, there's so many little things that make the big things happen, like that you said. So 100%, I'm glad you offered that, because I wanted to, but at the same time, I promised the group that, hey, we're 6 calls, we're into summer, and then we'll take it from there. So thank you for mentioning that, no doubt. I'm going to start the recording, and then we can figure out a time. Does that sound cool?
Great.
Sweet.